Welcome to Students Incorporated, a podcast exploring the topics of business, education, technology, and design. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my team and I produce content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. Episodes include student conversations, interviews with thought leaders, and inspirational stories with an international flavor. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. Hello, I'm Mr. Jason, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined by co-hosts Premi and Rebecca. In this episode, we'll be doing another alumni-focused interview with a special guest who's now a Thai diplomat. His name is Mr. Harapun Prasuchai, or maybe some of you know him as Fayfay. But before we get into our interview with Mr. Harapun, let's hear our quote of the day and get some positive headline political news.
Our quote of the day comes from Gandhi. He said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." This quote highlights the power of peaceful and nonviolent actions in effecting change. It suggests that even the smallest act of kindness and compassion have the potential to create a ripple effect and bring about significant transformations. And that's our quote of the day.
And now, moving on to our news segment. Our first piece of political news comes from the United States. Now that the Iowa and the New Hampshire's primaries are over, Donald Trump is the Republican Party frontrunner in the 2024 presidential race. Several other popular Republican Party candidates have already dropped out of the race in order to give Trump the boost he needs to become the Republicans' primary candidate. The next state Republican primary is close to the end of February, and it will be held in South Carolina. And here's our second news piece. Taiwan's general election ended on January 13, with Lai Ching-te being elected as the new president of Taiwan. Amidst a fierce competition with the Chinese Nationalist Party and the Taiwan's People Party, Lai's party, the Democratic Progressive Party, was able to secure around 40% of the votes, but fell behind the Chinese Nationalist Party by one seat in the legislature. This means that while Lai has the top seat, there are still many obstacles when it comes to addressing the party's agendas. However, this election displayed Taiwan's democracy when it allowed the voice of the majority to be heard. And lastly, after 52 years of reigning over Denmark, Queen Margaret II has abdicated the throne, leaving her eldest son, Frederik X, to ascend to the throne. It's also the first time a Danish monarch has abdicated the throne while still alive, as the tradition has been to carry the title for life. King Frederik's new motto is, "United, committed for the Kingdom of Denmark," and currently has a high approval rate amongst the people of Denmark.
Thank you for the quote of the day and the headline news. In this first segment, we welcome Mr. Harapun, an ICS alumni who now serves as a Thai diplomat. We'll be discussing his journey from high school to university, then France, and then back to Thailand. Premi will start us off with our first question.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Fayfay. Could you please introduce yourself and let us know which ICS graduating class you are part of?
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be joining you guys. My name is Harapun Prasuchai, joined by Fayfay in ICS, and I graduated from ICS class of 2017.
Thank you. Can I ask a quick question? Are you keeping in contact with your classmates who graduated in your year?
Yeah, actually, we meet almost every other week, I think. We're pretty close. Our class is pretty close, and we meet for lunch, dinner, whatever's convenient for us. So we keep in contact.
Sounds great. Our next get-to-know-you question is, out of all the cities you've lived in, which one has been your favorite?
It's very hard to pinpoint because all of the cities I've lived in have positive qualities and also negative qualities. But if I have to choose one, that is probably, I'm gonna say Paris, because the city is so well designed. Everything is so close to everything else. So you could just take the metro to go from one place to another. It would take no more than 10 minutes, and everything is just very. There's just so much art, so much culture in the city. But of course, the negative side is that, as you might have heard, there is a lot of theft. The city is not the cleanest in the world, and you do get some, as an Asian, as a Thai person in Paris, you do face a little bit of racism there. So, but I do love Bangkok and Washington D.C. as well.
Yeah, I think that's true because like everything else, there's always positive and negative qualities. But I think definitely Paris, I'd love to visit one day. Like I've seen so many beautiful pictures. Okay, now let's see where this favorite food comes from. But from all of the places you lived in or visited, what's been some of your favorite foods outside of Thailand?
The thing is, you can get so many things out in Thailand. Like you can get food from everywhere in the world in Thailand. So I'm gonna go with something that you can't get in Thailand. So one thing from Paris is there's this thing called galette de Saint-Nazaire, which means I think it's buckwheat pancake. It's very, you need like a special equipment to make it, but it's very simple. It's basically like a pancake, and you put like egg, ham, and cheese on it. It's very hard to find in Thailand, but it's very common in Paris. That's something I've been wanting to have for a very long time, but I haven't gone back to Paris since I left Paris. So I do miss it, and I do want to eat it again. And probably the other thing is lamb skewers from China, from Beijing particularly. It tastes like Middle Eastern food. It's very hard to get it here too, and it's something I've been wanting to eat for a long time.
That sounds delicious. Actually, I'm from Beijing. I think I've tried it before. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you know yang rou chuar.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know that in Chinese.
Yeah, it's very hard to find it here. It's very hard to find.
Like Chinese
Here in
barbecue. Could you talk about your time here in ICS? How many years did you attend ICS, and what were some of your favorite classes and activities?
My time here at ICS. So I joined ICS in 2012. So I spent almost a little bit over 5 years at ICS. My favorite class, I really liked AP Environmental Science. I don't know if you still have that. I was the first class that took it. It was the first year there was this class.
Oh wow!
And it was really interesting because like we had to go outside and go to the claws and kind of take a sample of the water and see like how dirty it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty interesting. And I think it's just like, you have so much talk about sustainability, about the environment, about, climate change, and to be able to know what people are talking about today, it's so important. So I think that's why like AP. Apes. I don't know if you still.
Yeah, we do still call it apes.
It is my favorite class here. And the teacher was great, Dr. Steve, ICS legend.
Okay, after ICS, where did you study and what did you study? And what was the transition like?
I went to college in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University. I studied international political economy and French. The transition, it was a little bit hard because even though I went to ICS, international school, very American. Actually being in the United States with some actual Americans, the culture is still different. Like even though all of my friends here at ICS are Thai, Asian, and mingling among mostly Americans, like it does take a lot of adapting. You have to change the way you talk. You have to be more outgoing, even though like I think I consider myself an introvert, but you still have to put yourself out there, trying to be more expressive, be more assertive, because that's like how the culture is.
You mentioned studying international political economy and French at Georgetown. What was the experience like, and what does political economy cover?
I think it's very diverse. It's a very diverse subject. You do need to know about politics, about social studies, history. You have to know a little bit about everything, and there's also a little bit of math. So I think that's what I like. But you don't get too deep in any of those. Like you don't spend too much time on history. You don't spend too much time on social studies. That it gives you like a complete picture of why each country does what it does. I think one question that we ask in political economy would be, okay, why are some countries poor and why are some countries rich? And is it because of decisions that leaders make? Is it because of the political system? Is it because of the policies that they choose to pursue? And that's kind of what political economy entails. Like you look at the economy and you go back and you look at the main reason why the economy is what it is.
What was it like living in Washington, D.C.?
I liked it very much, but I'm going to say it's not for everyone because, as you said, it's the center of U.S. or even like global power. So everyone's there for a reason. Everyone's there because of that. No one's actually, very few people are from Washington, D.C. So if that's what you're interested in, if you're interested in international relations, in politics, in things of that nature, you will enjoy Washington, D.C. because you'll rub shoulders. I haven't met Joe Biden, but people always say they'll meet Joe Biden for ice cream.
Oh. That's crazy.
Or they would, see Michelle Obama jogging. Like that's the kind of atmosphere you get. If you're not interested in that, then that it's not that fun. And during Thanksgiving or during Christmas, no one is there. It's a dead city essentially.
Oh wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I visited Washington D.C. over the summer too, and I think over the summer there were less people, and then I got to see all the different places like Library of Congress, White House, and so it was interesting. But yeah, I can definitely see that's the vibe there.
Yeah. The fact that you're a few meters, a few miles away from that it's a privilege, but that's not what you spend.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, how about this? What did you pursue after completing your degree at Georgetown?
So right before I graduated, I did an internship at a firm called Reason Partners, and that's because I spent my senior year back in Bangkok because of COVID.
Oh.
So after I graduated in Bangkok remotely, I returned to the firm and started my work as a consultant in government affairs. And what it basically is we would have customers who are from the private sector, or companies, huge multinationals who would want to build positive relationship with the Thai government, and we would kind of hold their hands, tell them okay, what's right and what they should do, what they should say, or who they need to know about in the Thai government, so that they don't make any stupid mistakes because they're foreigners. That's kind of the gist of it. So that's what I did.
All right, thank you so much for sharing, and that ends our first main segment.
And with that last question, we'll be right back to hear more right after this short announcement.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Because of Thailand's large Chinese population, it comes as no surprise that the Chinese New Year is a major festival in Thailand. It is a lovely time when different communities come together, break bread, and wish each other good fortune for the year ahead. Streets are decorated in bright red with gorgeous Chinese paper lanterns hanging from above, and dragon dancers along the road. The day of the Chinese New Year varies each year depending on the Chinese lunar calendar. It generally falls in the month of January or February. This year, the Chinese New Year will be celebrated on the 10th of February, Saturday. You don't have to be ethnic Chinese to celebrate Chinese New Year. This holiday indeed holds great significance as a time to celebrate and unite with family. The festive traditions, delicious food, and joyous atmosphere make it a wonderful occasion to cherish moments with loved ones.
We are back with part 2. In this segment, we'll be getting some insight into Mr. Harapum's duties and responsibilities in his current role with the Thai government. Premi will get us started again.
Welcome back, everyone. We left off with your internship, and you've mentioned living in Paris, right? Could you tell us a little bit about that, or what you did after that internship, and what brought you back to Thailand as well?
So the internship I did, it was actually in Thailand, And what brought me back to Thailand, it's actually just it's COVID. Since 2020, I was in France in 2020 during my exchange year there. And when COVID started, no one was sure what to do. No one was sure what it was. And basically my school just emailed me saying, you need to leave Bangkok. You need to leave Paris. Get out of there within 48 hours or else your credits won't be transferred back to, essentially I wouldn't be able to graduate in time. So that's why I had to book the next 2 flights back to Bangkok. And that was kind of a shame because I had a lot of things planned to do in France.
That sounds stressing too. What was it like coming back to Thailand? What was that transition like for you personally and professionally?
What was it like coming back to Thailand? I think first is my Thai got really bad. Okay, my Thai was already not that great when I was in ICS. Like, as you know, like because you don't do a lot of things in Thai, so your Thai really just goes to the toilet. So coming back to Thailand, like having to write things in Thai, having to talk in Thai was a challenge. But I think it's got so much better now after 4 years back here. But I think it's the same for me professionally, that I have to work in Thai now, and it's still a learning process for me. And coming back to Thailand, I think it's just how a lot of things are still very unpredictable in Thailand. So previously, like you can plan your trips very meticulously. Like, okay, I'm gonna take 20 minutes to go there, and it's pretty accurate. But now, like it's better now, but nothing was predictable. So I had to live with a lot of like uncertainties in my daily life when I'm back in Thailand, in Bangkok.
Yeah, honestly, I think that makes sense too with like somehow like transportation. Like sometimes you don't know if there's traffic or there's no traffic. You could get there in like 20 minutes or an hour. So I think, but also like just like transitioning usually to, it's like from like maybe like a Western culture to like an Asian culture. So there's that too. We're super curious though. What's it like working for the Thai government now? Could you walk us through a day in your life as a Thai diplomat?
So it's an exciting time to be part of the Thai government today, because I don't know how closely you follow Thai politics, but we just had a new government, new prime minister, and we're actually very eager to put ourselves back on the world map, and basically telling the world like, okay, we're back on track. We want to get people to come to like spend money to visit Thailand for tourism, or even like invest in some factories in Thailand. So it's an exciting time, and it's great that I happen to be in the Department of International Economics. So we're directly on, kind of in the front line. A day in my life as a Thai diplomat, I'm still in Bangkok, so it depends day by day. So my main job would be to kind of synthesize, aggregate information from all over Thailand, and bring the information to, say, like ambassadors or our political leaders to meet with foreign leaders, so they have a picture of how Thai economic policy is and what we want to sell to the world, what we want to tell the world, how, as I said, how we're open to business, how we're like open to tourism, what we're doing to make sure that the life of tourists are easier in Thailand, how the life of business people in Thailand are easier. So I do a lot of writing in Thai and English, and I do a lot of researching the news and meeting people who are actually doing actual work in business or in driving the digital economy, for example.
How do you think your educational experiences have shaped what you're doing today?
It's very interesting that ICS, back when I was in school, it kind of annoyed me that I have to do community service. Like, we're always talking about capstone community service. Like, it's a hope. It's an assignment, right? It's just something you need to do. But looking back, I think it has a lot of more impact on me, because I think it's very important to think about what and whom you are doing these things for, like basically service, right? And I think that kind of mindset really shaped how I chose my career and how I'm doing things today. Like I always think about, okay, who am I doing this for? Is this like, and how is it impacting people? And in my case, it's in the government. Like how it is helping the people, or like the Thai businesses, or whatever you want to say. I don't mean that like you have to work for the government, but there's always something like you want to ask, like, what am I doing this for? Who am I serving? If it's like customers, or the people, or your shareholders, whatever. I think that's really important. And at Georgetown, pretty much the same. Like we ask ourselves a lot about service, about like making the world a better place, but also think about things from a lot of perspectives, from your own perspective, from like a national perspective, but also from like a global one.
Yeah, it's really important to know others as well. Do you work with others in the Thai government with similar educational backgrounds like yourself? What's that working environment like?
Yeah, I think so. I guess because like we work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? A lot of people have graduated studied international relations or political science. A lot of the discussions are very like lively. Like we talk about current events. We talk about all of the conflicts that are happening in the world are affecting the Thai economy, or how we need to proceed with our policy or our strategy, for example.
Huh, that's really cool. So like similar like educational experiences, then I would assume like international.
We did.
Yeah.
Some did IB, some did AP, but it's still pretty similar.
Huh, that's really cool. And that sounds like really fun too, like having discussions about like current world events, like with everything happening. And now to close this segment, we like to end each guest interview with advice. So what advice would you give to those who desire to get into the government work?
First, I do want to like broaden government work.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like working as a civil servant, but in a lot of cases, I think a lot of friends who want to be doctors, right? So at some point in life, if you want to be a doctor, then there is a chance that you're working for the government. And I think one mindset that would be really helpful to make your life slightly like more livable, less miserable, is that there's always like an aspect of public service,
right?
And if you don't have that in mind, then it's going to be tough, because if you're a diplomat, a lot of things are things of national importance, and it is going to happen, like regardless, like it's non-negotiable. It is going to happen. So it requires a lot of like working outside of regular hours. Right. And I think it's the same if you want to be a doctor, like you do have to work around patients' emergency, things that are outside of control. So it's really helpful if you do have like a mind of like, oh, you're helping people, this is something that you need to do, or else like it's going to be very hard, and it's going to be emotionally toiling and physically tiring as well. So yeah, having the right mindset of what you're getting into, and if like that's not what someone wants to do, that it's fine, right? It's just that maybe government work is not
right.
It's not right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it also depends on like what you want, but also like to restate what you said earlier, like knowing what you're doing and who you're doing it for is definitely important. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Harpoon, for your time and insight, and for sharing your journey with us. I go back to our quote of the day from Gandhi, who said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." And getting into politics and government work may allow you to do this. As we end this episode, we are reminded that everyone's path is different and that we can learn from each other's journey, especially from those who've come before us. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we are signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated, because your voice matters.